Welcome to Tales from Timber Creek, a place where stories flow like water in a mountain brook. Settle in, unwind, and let your mind wander. Here you'll find original stories told in a calm, soothing voice, paired with peaceful, rustic ambiance. Whether you're looking to relax after a long day or drift off to sleep, this channel offers a tranquil retreat from the noise of everyday life. So take a deep breath, relax, and stay a while. The Ember Keeper. Listen close, friends, and draw your chairs a little nearer to the fire. Night has a way of thinning the walls between here and before, and the flames, well, they like to be listened to while they're talking. This is a story that's been told in many voices, but tonight I'll tell it the way it was told to me. Slow enough for the sparks to rise, and true enough to leave a mark. Long ago, how long no one can rightly say, there stood a village at the edge of a wide pine forest. The forest wasn't wicked as forests go, but it was old, and it remembered things. The villagers called it the breathing wood because on still days you could hear it sigh, like wind moving through the ribs. At the center of the village burned a single shared fire. Not a dozen hearths, not lamps in every window, just one fire, built in a circle of stone on the hill. From it, the villagers lit their cooking coals, warmed their hands, melted pitch, and pushed back the long dark when winter came early and stayed late. They said the fire had been burning since the first roof was raised. They also said, quietly, that if it ever went out, the forest would start walking. Whether that last part was true didn't matter. Everyone believed it. Each year, a new Ember Keeper was chosen, someone to tend the fire through storm and sickness, through feast and famine. The Ember Keeper did not sleep far from the flames. They cleaned the ash, split the wood, and learned the language of crackle and pop. It was not a grand title. People rarely thanked them. But every villager slept easier knowing someone was watching the fire while they slept. One year, the lot fell to a young man named Calder. Calder had strong arms and a quick smile. He laughed easily and often, and he had a habit of looking past people's shoulders as though something interesting were always just out of view. Some said he would do well because he was clever. Others worried because he was restless. And the fire, after all, does not care for cleverness. It cares for patience. On his first night, the old Ember Keeper, a bent woman with hands like roots, sat beside Calder and said, "The fire will teach you if you listen." She pointed to the flames. Feed it too much, and it chokes. Feed it too little, and it sulks. Leave it alone too long, and it wanders. Calder nodded. He was good at nodding. For the first weeks, he tended the fire faithfully. He learned which logs burned slow and which sparked fast. He learned how a bed of coals could glow even when the flames bowed low. The villagers slept warmly, and no shadow stepped where it didn't belong. But Calder began to notice something. Every night, people came to the fire for what they needed. Some came with empty pots and left fed. Some came cold and left warm. Some came burdened and left lighter. And no one ever asked what the fire needed in return. One night, while the villagers slept, Calder leaned close to the coals and whispered, "What do you want?" The fire answered as fires do, not with words, but with a shift in heat, a brighter glow, a quiet hunger. And Calder felt something form in his chest. To be seen. From that night on, Calder changed. He stood taller, fed the fire earlier so the flames would rise higher when people passed. He told stories of how the fire had nearly died and how he alone had saved it. People began to linger, to listen, to say things like, "Good thing Calder was there. We're lucky to have such a wonderful Ember Keeper." And the fire burned bright, brighter than ever before. But brightness is a demanding thing. To keep the flames high, Calder fed them more wood. To keep them impressive, he fed them better wood. Soon he began pulling from the winter stores. "What good is winter wood," he said, "if we don't make it to winter?" Some villagers frowned, but they liked the warmth, and they liked the light. They liked the way the hill glowed like a small sun against the night. So they said nothing. The breathing wood sighed more often. One evening, a child came to Calder. She stood small against the glow of the flames. "May I take a coal?" she asked. "My mother is sick and the night is cold." Calder hesitated. He had just arranged the fire to flare beautifully. He imagined the flames lowering, the circle less impressive. "Tomorrow night," he said. "Tonight the fire must be watched." The child nodded and walked away into the cold. Calder told himself there would be other chances to be generous. But the storms came early that year. Wind clawed at the hill. Rain hissed against the stones. Calder fought the weather like a man at war, feeding the fire again and again, refusing to let it dim. The flames roared, and Calder felt powerful beside them. But the woodpile thinned. One morning the villagers woke to find stumps where trees had once stood. Calder had cut them in the night, desperate to keep the blaze alive. Loud, impressive. That afternoon, the old Ember Keeper returned. "You're burning the fire fast," she said. "It needs it," Calder replied. "Better a great fire than a weak one." The old woman traced a finger through the ash. "A fire isn't great because it's tall," she said quietly. "It's great because it lasts." Calder turned away. "If you were still strong enough," he said, "you'd understand." The old woman sighed and did not return again. That night, the wind changed. It came from the forest, heavy, damp, watching. The fire twisted, sparks leapt. Calder fed it faster now, hands blistered, eyes wild. Then came the quiet. For one terrible moment, the wind stopped. The flame stretched thin, and Calder realized there was no more dry wood. He had burned it all, chasing the perfect blaze. As the fire dipped, the darkness thickened. Shadows lengthened, and at the edge of the trees, something shifted. The forest took one step closer. Calder ran, returning with damp wood. He threw it onto the fire. Smoke rose. The flames choked and shrank. "I gave you everything," he shouted. "Burn!" The fire answered with silence. The villagers gathered at the edge of the light. For the first time, they saw how small it really was, how fragile, how cold the night could be, and how close the forest had come. Then, from among them, a child spoke. "My mother shared her coals today," she said softly, "even though our fire was small." Her words settled like ash, and ash is not the end of fire. It's what remains when fire remembers itself. Calder fell to his knees. His pride cracked, and something honest took its place. He knelt at the fire, carefully now, gently. He brushed away the ash until he found it, a single, quiet ember, still glowing with life. He looked at the villagers. "If you had wood," he said, voice low, "bring it. Not to make it tall, just to make it through the night." They brought what they could. It wasn't much. Branches, scraps, pieces that had been saved for later. The fire did not roar. It did not impress, but it held. And the forest stopped walking. By morning, the hill was quiet. gray with smoke, lit with something softer than before. The villagers stood closer now, not because of the fire, but because of each other. Calder never served as Ember Keeper again, but he was often seen on the hill, sitting quietly, feeding the fire when it needed it, sharing its warmth without claiming it. And when people asked about the night the forest nearly came calling, he would say only this: a fire isn't something you own, it's something you care for. And the moment you forget who it's for, it starts looking for another reason to burn. Now, look into those flames here, friends. Notice what they're doing. They're not shouting, they're not reaching, they're simply burning. Steady, quiet, enough. True strength is not found in intensity or attention, but in quiet consistency, humility, and care for what serves others.